My favorite part, the place you'll go, like they have this thing in the waiting room, and it's all these people waiting for things, like waiting for the weather. It says, waiting for the weather to change, waiting for this, waiting for the right fish to come.
Right.
And to be honest, I'm in a field, a dream field, where like it's a dream job, you know. And
Right.
most times, like, oh, I wish I had a job, but it's because they were always waiting for something. And most of the time, when people don't do something, it's because they're just waiting for something that's never going to happen. I've never actually seen a novel or a piece of literature explain the waiting room that dead on and so stupid, and it really like makes you ask really interesting questions. So reading Dr. Seuss, I find really it's terrible, but it's like it's really, really good literature in a way. Like when you read it to your kids, like you feel very proud to read those messages to your kids. Like, what better? I can't think of any better teacher than Dr. Seuss to your kids.
But in a way, then this goes back to what you mentioned earlier about science fiction, where while the vehicle is looked upon a certain way in society, then the message you can get, or the ideas or the thoughts that are brought forth, are quite instrumental in.
Well, you have to imagine your brain has so many self-defenses, right? So like whenever you like see real scenarios or real people or real things, your brain is making so many defense decisions. Like they look at the clothes, they look at the type of person, they're making all these assumptions. So your brain's so busy being defensive that it's difficult for your brain to get to an open state where you start looking at the actual and having it affect your life, because you know your brain's like a prison. It's like it's got walls like 20 feet high, you know. I remember seeing a show. Another thing I thought was interesting for this album is I saw a show with puppets singing. My friend, he says hip hop, it's like a hip hop musical with puppets. And I was like, to be honest with you, they were singing like sometimes the cheesiest shit. And I was loving it, and I was like, oh, it's so beautiful. And I'm like, what the fuck? If that was a person singing that, I wouldn't allow myself to enjoy that melody. I'd be like, that's fucking cheesy. And then I was like, I clicked, I was like, man, but when a puppet sings it, I totally let it affect me. All my defenses are down, and then I totally enjoy this like super cheesy melody with this super cheesy message, and it feels really good. But it takes a fucking puppet to do it. And if it's a real person, there's no way I'd be like, fuck, this guy's cheesy, and then I'd have all my defense mechanisms up. So it's pretty interesting, like when you start being aware of how many things in this world are defense mechanisms, instead of being like played off as like, you know, even like I would go as far to say, this is a weird thing to say, bit generalized, might get hung for it. The idea of being cool is a defense mechanism to me. Even the whole concept of cool, well, especially the modern version of it, not the birth of cool in the jazz era, but our idea of being cool is a defense mechanism. It's built out of purely just insecurities.
It's a kind of trying to establish that there is a reason why you exist, or trying to fit
into something, or like try to like say things that for the most part, I find when people are being really cool, it looks like a big giant defense mechanism to me. Doesn't, even though it's supposed to be an expression of freedom and it's supposed to be an expression of like, I'm not afraid to do this. I see more, I mean, especially the modern version of it, I see more of it as being like, I'm scared and I'm going to show this to hide what I really think. I know it sounds, but maybe I'm generalizing. It's a risky thing to say. I know it's risky, I get it, but do you know what I mean? I see a lot of that in the world around me.
And but these kind of thoughts, have you always had these kind of thoughts when you were starting out as well?
What do you mean?
These kind of inquisitive thoughts about life, about the world around you, because
I don't know.
In that sense, has your approach with all that in mind, has your approach to music changed in the last, what is it, 10, 15 years?
No, I always have a brain that spins in circles. I mean, like, it's a very hyperactive brain, so I constantly think about things, and they go, and it's like a lot of information, and tires me out, and I go to bed going, ugh. So I guess it's kind of a natural state for me. It doesn't necessarily, like, for some reason, get out of my lyrics. I almost find music a break from thinking. So.
Well, because that's what I was going to ask. Because you mentioned music, the music earlier as a way of, for instance, smoking a joint, or the kind of a feeling of ecstasy in a way. So is that your experience when you're performing live and when you're creating?
It seems like making music makes my brain stop turning in circles. So it seems to be more of a reaction to how I think than about what I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's a way of like chilling myself out and being like, okay, whoa, and it expresses things and relaxes it, and it's a counter argument sometimes even.
But in that way, do you get lost in the music a lot?
Well, I spent hours and hours and hours doing it, so I guess so. I love it.
Because I seem to remember your previous interview you did with us. You talked a bit about having kids and having them around, and that kind of changes the way you have to deal with time. Because so in that sense, can you enjoy? Might not be the right word, but do you experience music then in a similar sense?
What do you mean?
To before you had kids?
Yeah, music's always been the same person for me.
So it's just a sense of time then?
It's more of a sense of place. For me, music's more of a place than a time or a thing. Like music world, when I'm in the zone, I'm in a place. And to be allowed back into that place, I have to keep on reinventing music so I can get my drug in a way. Like some people think like getting into a hypnotic state in music would be like a depth to your music, or it should be to being like good or like better. I think it's kind of like a very cheap drug addiction where like, you know, it doesn't have bad side effects. I feel high as hell and it makes me feel good.
Right.
So it's kind of like a healthy drug for me, but I need it, like I'm addicted to it. Like,
is it the creative process then? Of
just
music,
like when I start dreaming of a song or the song first pops in my head, it gives me like a body buzz.
Okay.
It feels like having sex. I mean, that's the closest thing to it. It's very physical. It's not like, it's not intellectual. It's like a very physical feeling.
In that sense, do you reflect on what you've made previously a lot?
Never.
Never. Why not?
I'm only where I'm writing, so I'm only as good as what I'm writing, and I'm only feeling what I'm writing. So once it's written, it's done. I don't ever listen to it again. I can't get the feeling back once it's finished.
So that's why the quest, in a sense, for that feeling keeps going.
Yeah, you have to keep on writing, or else you don't get that high anymore.
Is it? Well, do you write a lot then? Because you say you spend a lot. So is it difficult to?
Every day I'm writing.
But then there's, I believe, what is it, 10 songs on the record? So
like 30, 40 extra.
Okay. So do you develop all of the songs, or do some fall by the wayside?
Some are just for a moment in time, and if there's something good enough, it should stay in my pocket, and I'd be like, oh, I remember that word I sang that time, or that little chord change I did, and then it will accumulate like a snowball, and most of the ideas will be washed away, except for a couple of little special things I liked.
Do you know them when you're on the right track, or do you?
Yeah, like I already know the title of the next record.
Well, can you say it, or?
Yeah, I gotta think if I can say it. It's Smiling Crime.
Why? Why this title? Is it again?
It's just when it came out of my mouth, it's something tingled that I was like, that's the next album title.
Okay. So do you already have songs lined up then as well?
Yeah.
Does it make it difficult then, because you have to go on tour for this record and then play all these songs? Is your mind already with the next album?
Yes.
Does that make playing live difficult?
No, because playing live is fun. It makes it frustrating after a while.
Okay.
After about 80 shows, it becomes frustrating.
Okay. And then, well, I suppose you do more than 80 shows. So how do you kind of?
Because it's very enjoyable to share an experience with people. Like, it's very enjoyable it's a big honor. Like, making music is such an honor. I get to go to my studio every day and write music, and like I wouldn't trade that for the world. So playing for people and taking it seriously and giving everything I have is part of a responsibility to have such an awesome job. So I have no problem doing what I got to do.
And finally then, because we talked about Dr. Seuss and the way, well, what do you like people to do this? Yeah, this might be a weird question, but what do you like people to take away then from listening to your music?
I know what I don't want them to take away. The only thing I know, lyrically, I don't care if people understand the messages, to be honest with you, or whatever. I just want to make sure it keeps people's heads up high. And there's a difference between music that makes you like your head fall, which is kind of depressing, or there's music that like reinforces the listener and makes the listener feel good,
right? And
it keeps their head up. And the only thing I care about, I would be mad if my music made people feel smaller. I would want to make people feel bigger. So that would be the only thing I care about. And if I started feeling like I did that, I would stop playing music.
Okay. But hopefully...
But you can have like Bob Dylan sing a very sad song or a melancholic song, but you feel reinforced as a listener, and you feel like he's on your side, and he makes you feel there's something wonderful about that. It's not like, oh, it's a depressing song where I feel shitty. So
Right.
the only thing I care about is that rule. Other than that, I couldn't care less what people take away.
Okay. That's a good way to end. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers.